Welcome to Rugby Uncovered. This week we speak to Adam Dowsett, who's the head of strength and conditioning at Wasps Ladies. Adam, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you on. Tell us a bit about your job and what you do.
Yes, I'm Lead S&C at Wasps FC Women's. So I basically look after all the players from development players into first team and make sure they progress within the team setup.
Right, I see. And so so in that regard, do you talent spot, or is talent spotted and then it's your job to improve their strength and conditioning?
Yeah, they would come to me as, a contract player of Wasps, and then within that setup we would develop them. With regards to the talent scouting, that would be done by either Giselle or one of the other coaches,
right,
within position specific coaches.
So how do you tailor your role to nutritional trends that are out there, and whether we should be eating meat and whether we should be eating more plant-based foods? And there was, I don't know if you saw the documentary called Game Changers that was that sparked a whole debate about being vegan and how good it was for you to be plant-based in sport. How do you deal with that, and how do you apply that to your teams?
Most stuff that comes out is more of a trend, and it becomes fashionable, especially with social media the way it is now. Things become very fashionable, and then everyone thinks it's the best thing. But there's no one size fits all within a mass amount of players. If you have 60-40 players or whatever it is, there's no one rule for everyone. What may benefit one player may hinder another player. So when obviously this Game Changer show come out, there was so much debate about it because they promoted veganism as this wonder food and you're gonna be the best athlete you can be. But most of the athletes on there were either good already or were slightly worse when they came off. I think there was a strongman that was on there.
Yes,
that hadn't hit any of world strongman criteria. He was strong, but he necessarily wasn't as strong as someone else. But a mixed diet is what we try and promote, but then it might not suit people's lifestyles.
Sure. That's really interesting. It's really interesting to hear because, of course, that's a whole massive billion-dollar industry. So if you're saying a balanced diet, which seems to be the most reasonable solution, then that makes a lot of sense. And how do you tailor your exercise programs to the different styles of play?
As you said, there's a lot of different positions and body shapes, and even within the positions, there's still personal critiques we can have with the players. But as an overview, we aim to develop strength, speed and power and multi-directional qualities, as well as their aerobic base. So that is our overall view. With regards to rugby, it's a very, very go-go game where you need to be fit and strong. Whereas, for example, comparative to American football, you could just be super explosive and you wouldn't need as much of an engine as you do in rugby. So everyone has to have the traits, but whether we push more of a speed or more of a strength trait depends on obviously position and training age of the player. So when they come into the club, as a fundamental, we like to screen them, which is either a passive assessment, which we look at imbalances within them, and then we have an active assessment, but that's sort of ongoing within the players during each session, if you like. Within their training programs, they're split into front five, then 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 are together, and then we have our back three, and our centers are with our back row. So we try, and how we want to play, we try and not segregate, but push those players that we want similar traits to a similar program. But then within that program, we can slightly adjust it depending on the body shape and what that player actually needs themselves. If you've got a player that's got a 10-year training age, we might adapt that comparative to a player that is, fresh out, 18-year-old, hasn't got much of a training age, and we adapt the program to suit them.
I see. That's fascinating. And with regard to technology, presumably over the last few years, that's played an increasing part in training and being able to analyse performance both in training and on the pitch. Do you use technology to do that?
Yeah, so our analyst is Gary, and he actually feeds the information back to us. So he's the one that actually goes through all the analytics of it. And then I get fed back through the coaches what the actual take-home points and what they want from the players. So Gary will process the information. Giselle will then feedback, oh, well, we need to get fitter, we need to get stronger. And then we can tailor the programs.
And how much can you actually tailor a team towards an opponent team? It presumably would take more than a few weeks to change your style. Can't change your fitness that quickly.
No, agreed. Yeah, so it wouldn't be on like a micro scale like that. It would be more of what we want Wasps, or what Giselle wants Wasps to be, and what the gameplay or the game style she wants to achieve.
Yeah.
So then that would feed to me over, a season. So if we want to be first to the ball, then we need to be fitter. If we want to dominate in contacts more, we need to be stronger.
Yeah.
So that would be what I would get fed at the start of the season is how we want to achieve, or what we want to achieve from the players.
Yeah.
And then the programs can be more tailored towards that. If we need to have more foot contacts a week, or if we need to have more gym sessions, for example, upper body strength, if we want to increase our upper body strength.
One of the most amazing things that Tom and I witnessed, and Tom's going to come in just a moment, that prior to the match, you actually see these athletes doing press-ups and quite a rigorous sort of warm-up that would be quite enough for, I think, most people on a daily basis as far as how much exercise they do. So it just shows you how fit they are.
Yeah, definitely. With the warm-up, there's always, if you look at any team across the 10 teams, the warm-ups are different. They have some capacities that are the same, but the girls get used to their own warm-up. So, for example, if you did 20 press-ups every day, if you only did 10 in a warm-up, 10 might be a lot to someone that only does one press-up.
Aha.
But for someone's capacity that is larger, that 10 is only a minuscule amount to what they're used to. So it's where the coaches deem the players to be, and to get them to a point where they are ready to perform.
That's brilliant. That's really great. Thank you. So, Tom.
Hi, Adam. It's great to have you on. My questions, I think, might overlap a tiny bit with Paul's, but I was a back, and I gather that the strength and conditioning for backs has evolved a huge amount in the last 10 years. You're better qualified than me to talk about that. But so the work you do with, say, a centre will differ from that of a fly half or a fullback.
Yeah, so what I like to do is I clump the 6, 7, 8 and the centres together with the style of play that we have at Wasps. And that would differ to the 9 and 10. I like the 9s and 10s to be a little bit more agile. So we have a little bit more short multi-directional work, like 5, 10, 5s, where we're looking at keeping the hips low, which then transfers definitely for the 9s to get in and out of rucks to play the ball. And a lot of short back pedals with accelerations. For example, a 10 having to quickly get into a position and then break that position to receive a pass. With regards to our 12 and 13, it's a much more about hardline running. We take them over a little bit more distance, still having the acceleration, but we put more emphasis on the linear running rather than the multi-directional. It doesn't mean they don't do any. Our emphasis for 9s and 10s is more on the agility side and short acceleration, whereas our 12 and 13s is a little bit more linear based.
Right. Okay. And how does the current condition of the players compare with that of previous non-COVID-19 summers?
Oh, it's definitely a different time for us. And what we had to really sit down and talk about is how do we get across the sessions? If you think you're 2 times a week minimum, for us maybe 3 to 4 times a week, you would be face to face with the players. And taking that out, we introduced a Zoom call where the players can see each other working out. I can demonstrate, and through this period I've been actually doing the workouts with them, which is definitely different style for me. And this actual period of time is learning how to use different equipment. But for the players, it's a mental stress because they have to become more accountable. They can't just come to training and feed off other people. They have to inspire themselves to actually be better. That's been a massive take home through this period. So I think with the sessions we've put out there as Wasps for them to complete by themselves, I think they will be in a very good place to come back into the season or at the pre-season.
And is that now? Are they back now?
No, not yet. I think there's certain levels. I'm not too clear on the levels, but yeah, we're not back yet. Hopefully soon. Right. But yeah, as a moment, it's still non-contact, if you like, distanced.
Yeah, and you've just really answered my next question. I was going to say, how long do the players need, assuming a normal summer break, which this hasn't been, before they're ready to start a Premier 15s game?
Yeah, so the main difference, obviously, when we would have come back in, say, May, there wouldn't have been much contact, but you would have maybe had touch rugby, if any. And it's just that period of having contact. You've had so much time. You didn't finish the season, so we obviously capped it in, maybe it was early March, which was a couple of games, quite a few games left. That's, contact time that we haven't had, which is very good from a strength and conditioning perspective because we had healthy bodies. Yes. So we could obviously extend our, strength phase, if you like, to develop them. But that then, that's a longer period now between finishing our contact and introducing contact. And that's even, I think, once we start introducing play, it's going to take a little bit longer just to get used to having contact, especially the feelings of, day in, day out being beaten up and being tackled. It does take a toll.
Sure. Yeah, you'll be interested in what World Rugby told us last week about the revision of the North-South calendars and the potential for a midwinter break. I think there is real general interest in that.
Yeah, I think it could be interesting. Obviously, depending how long the break is, it's good to rejuvenate the players. Having constant week in, week out. From my perspective, you can't develop a player massively over a period of, the season. It's about maintaining and limiting the amount that we lose. Because, if you have a dead leg, if you've one Saturday to one Saturday, the gameplay is going to be totally different. You might have a really fast game and a really slow game. So the amount of work you can do week in, week out is totally different. Whereas if you take away gameplay and you have that break, we can monitor and develop better.
Yes, absolutely. And the squads have been reduced in size. There's no development squad now. So does that give you extra quality time with the players that remain at Wasps?
Well, I hope so. I'm not really too clued up on how it's going to work yet with regards to the reduction. But yeah, I think if you limit any number, if you took 5 to 1 and you had a 1-on-1 scenario, you're going to get more quality time. So I think in that aspect, players will develop. But obviously for me, it's about everyone developing. And if you're capping the squad at 40, there's an abundance of players that won't get that quality coaching, which, hinders players' progressions.
Thank you, Adam. Yeah, I just wanted to ask, you touched upon it in terms of the sports psychology. How much does that play a part in your role? Do you have somebody who is a sports psychologist within the team, or does that fall under strength and conditioning?
We do have a psychologist at the club that the players do go to. And that will be for, their private sessions or skill sets, developing mental skill sets, because the mind is definitely a big muscle that you can train.
Definitely.
And the better you can deal with pressures. What S&C for me gives is a stress. So it's a stress on the body and it's a stress on the mind. If the players can overcome that, then they can succeed. But if they don't have the mental capacity to deal with it, you can see players that have the physical potential to develop, but don't quite match that with the mental yet. And that's where Alex Powell comes in and helps the players match their physical with the mental.
Fascinating. That's fascinating. What was your journey to being a strength and conditioning coach?
So when I was younger, many moons ago, I played rugby. Went to London Scottish for a brief stint, and then to Roslyn Park. From there, that's where my playing journey sort of ended, and I went out to America. I went to, his name's Pete Bomberito, and he is one of the best NFL strength and conditioning coaches, and he helps build players to go into the combine. So it's very much about combine prep, and then players in the off season come to him to develop when they're away from their teams. Did a 3-month stint in Miami, and then
that sounds amazing.
It was definitely great, because you got these 20-year-old males that are the cream of the crop that are going into the combine, and the training systems I learned from the Bomberito Center was incredible. But having that much talent around you, and then you've got £1 million players coming in as well, it was such an environment to thrive in. And then from there, I've done bits with serious stuff pups, where it was just warm-ups and different kinds of factors there. From that, I went to work at Brunel University as the lead S&C, and it covered a wide range of sports: netball, basketball, middle distance, rugby union, rugby league, ski cross, and squash. And we had limited time with each of the different sports, but it was a great opportunity to learn how to make certain things fit different sports and what attributes each sport needs more than others. So that was quite a big development within my learning capacity. I worked with England Netball as the regional performance specialist, and then came to Wasps, some internships all the way through that as well with London Welsh before they went off.
Brilliant.
So it's quite a good journey.
Yeah, that's an amazing journey. And what is it about rugby? Is it the differences in the physiology that makes it such an interesting challenge for you?
Yeah, it's not as I said before, it's not a one size fits all, because there is so many different positions within the setup, and so many different body shapes, but all trying to achieve the same goal.
Yeah,
that is quite fun, and I think that's what being the S&C at Brunel helped with, because there was, again, on a bigger scale, so many different sports, but all trying to be better. It's sort of on a micro scale, it's the same as so many different body shapes, the different positions to achieve the end goal of the team being better. Yes, and that definitely intrigues me, because ultimately you want the team to be better, and you want each individual player to be better.
And the other thing is, and we've heard it from people before, that when they're thinking about rugby, there are so many different aspects to it, because the whole rugby community is a very special one, and it's something that I think separates it in some ways from other sports. And there are, if you're not a player, there are so many other things to think about, like being a ref, being an S&C coach, being a coach, or whatever. There are so many interesting avenues available to the sport, and it's great to hear from ones that we don't normally hear about. So I just want to say a really big thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for explaining what you do. And we can't wait to get back into the game, and look forward to seeing you on the pitch.
Yeah, it's been too long already, so yeah, I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Thanks, Adam.
Perfect.
Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Cheers, Adam. We'll see you soon.
All right, thank you, mate.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
This has been Paul and Tom for Rugby Uncovered. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.